rock bottom for me, Easter Sunday 2016. My wife explaining to my parents what I did the day before, but she was also explaining to me. Don't cover me, babe. What she told me terrified me. I had put my 1-year-old daughter's life in danger. And at that moment, I knew I had to change.
All right, what's going on, everybody? That was tonight's guest, Ben Fisher. I'm Daniel Unmanageable, and this is Hard Knox Talks coming at you from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Treaty Number 6 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis people. Let's bring in Ben. What's up, Ben?
Hey, everybody. Dude, that intro was fire, man. Like, I wasn't nervous at all. And, like, the 10-minute countdown leading up to this and then that intro, like, now I got to go to bed. So, good night, everybody.
And that's a wrap. So,
thank you all for being here. That was crazy. I'm sure the comments are still going on. I had to close my laptop. I just want to say, first of all, thank you, Daniel, for allowing me to be here, to come on and share a little bit of my story. And thank you to everybody from around the world that's in the comments right now. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I will go back and read every single comment. I can't see them as the show's going on, but please stay here and hang out with us. It's going to be fun.
Here we go.
This is Hard Knox Talks.
Okay, before we get started, I just want to let our viewers and listeners know that tonight's live production is sponsored in part by Prairie Harm Reduction in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. You can learn more about them, reach out, make a donation to their safe consumption site at www.prairiehr.ca. Ben, you have a very large community that has come up around you, a string of hope. Wow, what an incredible presence you have, and what an opportunity to give platform to your voice and to your message. Let's take a couple of minutes and how did that happen, and how did it happen so quickly?
Well, it didn't happen quickly. I'll say that it's happened. It's kind of snowballed over the last 4 years of me doing this. But there's a huge backstory to why I'm doing this, and I think we'll get to that because it really starts at the beginning. When I was young, and it kind of circles. It does a full circle to where we're at today. But yeah, I'm humbled. I just can't believe how much positivity there is on the page too. Right? People are in the comments and they're loving on each other. They're expressing hope, they're expressing encouragement to others. And it's just a beautiful thing because, Facebook and social media in general can be such a dark place.
Yeah, man,
and
it really can.
That's really my goal. That's really my goal, is to be a light in the world, be a light to others, be an encouragement to others. And it's been a blessing, and it's just been amazing to see this thing unfold. And it's not about me. It's never been about me. It's about the community of A String of Hope. So it's about everybody. So to look into the comments and to see everybody here tonight too, it's just really cool, man. I'm blessed.
And what an occasion for you to come into our life. It's my 6th year sober today. So what an amazing time to come in and share with your community as well. And also tonight is the 2nd anniversary of Hard Knox Talks, to the day tonight, February 12th, 2021, our very first episode. So anyways, so why are you so passionate about carrying a message of hope, of trying to help people through the dark times in their minds? Why don't you tell us a little bit about how your own journey got started? What was it like growing up?
Yeah, so I grew up in the suburbs. I had a wonderful family. I couldn't really ask for more. My parents loved me. They loved me well. They raised me well. They were good people. They're still good people. They're probably here watching and listening, even though it's past their bedtime, much like it's past mine. We talked about it. So Nana Cat and Saul Paul, if you're here, I love you guys. You mean the world to me. But basically, I led a life that took me down the path to addiction, to alcoholism, to drug addiction. And that stems from anxiety and deep depression that I struggle with. I know a lot of people struggle with depression, and I really want to be somebody who helps people realize that they can make massive changes in their life.
Was there drinking at home? Like when did it really get started for you?
Yeah, for me, like we talked a little bit off air about how I was a musician. I got my first guitar when I was 7 years old.
Mhm.
Um, when I was six, I saw Jimi Hendrix playing Woodstock on the TV, and I just became obsessed, right, with that rock star lifestyle. Mainly because of how music made me feel, right? Music just it did something. You get the chills when you hear music. Like I just felt very connected to music in general. Got my first guitar at 7 and just took off from there. Like I started playing in bands when I was like 10 years old.
Mm.
And that became my life. I wanted to be a rock star, not because I wanted to be famous, but because I wanted to inspire people. I wanted to give them the same feeling that I got from music.
So it was never
And
about ego?
it was never about ego. Some people might disagree with you from high school and childhood,
Yeah.
maybe, but and maybe I forgot my place every once in a while, and you know forgot why I was doing what I was doing. But it was always about just wanting to share and inspire. Much like I do today, and we'll talk about that later, how it comes full circle. But I grew up, that rock star lifestyle led me down the path of drugs and alcohol, right? And that was another thing that I connected with. Fast forward, I went to college, smoked a lot of pot, drank a lot of beers in college, and, you know, kept that lifestyle going. Moved back to Cincinnati, Ohio after college. I went to
Mhm.
college in Florida.
So hang on a sec
I,
here. Hang on one sec here. Now just tell us briefly, like what was it like the first time you got drunk? Like it seems like you didn't really grow up around a lot of alcohol. It didn't, you know. So when the first time you got loaded, was it like a warm blanket? Was like I'm home, I can do all the things that I was too shy to do before, or like tell us just a little bit about that.
I, I'll tell you the first time I had a drink, I remember it vividly. I don't remember how old I was. I know I was very young.
Mhm.
And it was one of those things where it was at a family party and it was actually handed to me by an uncle. My parents were there and they saw this happening, right? My uncle handed me a beer and like said, take a drink. And I took a drink of it and he's like, no, take a real drink. And I basically chugged the beer. And I remember, and I was even sitting there with my guitar. I remember like having my guitar in my hand and like getting the warm feeling of that alcohol hitting me for the first time.
Mhm.
And I remember thinking like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
This is what I need.
Mhm.
Got my guitar in my hand, and I'm feeling a buzz. Like, how
Yeah.
do I keep going all the time?
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't become like a raging alcoholic. I was an alcoholic the first time I drank. I'll tell you that. But I obviously didn't just go off to the races right then. It progressed over time. Through my high school days, it was always how do we get alcohol? How do we stay drunk? And that segued into weed, marijuana, and dabbled in some other things here and there. But my alcoholism and my drug addiction didn't really progress until much later, right?
Mm.
It was an issue. It was a problem. Obviously, driving around as a 16, 17-year old, drinking behind the wheel, it's a big problem, right?
Yeah.
But it was hard to see then. Um, so yeah, go to college, come back home, and I end up getting a job out of college um, as a worship leader at a church, and that was a wonderful thing because it gave me purpose in life, and it also it allowed me to be a musician, a paid musician, right?
At church.
Because up until yeah, because up until that point, Yeah, I was a paid position as a music director at a
Mhm.
church, and I did that for 8 years. Um, but like I said, it gave me purpose and it gave me a paid gig as a musician. So I'm thinking like this is my identity, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a real musician. I'm putting food on the table and I'm making life work,
Mhm.
as a musician. I may not be a rock star and touring around the country, but again, that's never what I wanted to do. I always wanted to inspire people. I wanted to share my music with people to where they, would get the same feelings that I got from it.
Hmm.
Hope, you know, it always
So
comes back to hope.
what was it like, living the 2 lifestyles? Now, you'd mentioned that you were living the rock star lifestyle, right? And you were partying and doing all the things, and then you're also living this Christian lifestyle, I might call it. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah. It was, there's that quote, that meme that we all share, like a person that wears two faces will one day forget which one is real.
Mm,
Right. And that really happened to me. Um,
mhm,
for 8 years, I was living that lifestyle, and I was one person on Saturday night. And I was I wouldn't say completely different person on Sunday morning, but I had to play a part, right?
mhm,
Because I wasn't willing to let go of, the drinking and the drugging,
mhm.
but I did have to play that person on Sunday mornings. And it started to tear me apart, um, slowly. And as somebody who struggled with addiction, it progresses over time.
Yeah,
Some people it progresses very fast. Some people it progresses very slow. For me, it was very slow, and I was very good at hiding it. And that's an important thing to call out because I stayed sick for much longer because I was so good at hiding it.
yeah,
Part of me wishes I wasn't that good at hiding it because then I would have, I would have got help sooner, and I would have had health sooner. And God knows how much farther along I would be now because I'll tell you, I'm coming up on 7 years of sobriety myself, Easter Sunday, and the things that I've accomplished in 7 years compared to the 7 years prior is just, it's unbelievable looking at it. And and that's one thing that I really want to express by the end of the night tonight, of you don't have to wait until things are too late. You don't have to wait until you hit rock bottom to make changes in your life. You can make those changes now. You can hit stop on the elevator and get off on the level that you're on, instead of going all the way down to the bottom and just take the stairs back up, you
mhm.
know. But
So
we'll get back.
so speaking of rock bottom, now you mentioned earlier that you didn't, experience a lot of the consequences that maybe others have, but, that's not to say there weren't any. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the times where you mentioned that your wife found you blacked out and she was growing increasingly concerned and she went to the church because where else do you go looking for guidance, looking for help? Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, so my wife came home one night, and at this point, she knew obviously that I was struggling. I was hiding my drinking. I had gone to rehab once, came out, fell flat on my face. One night, she came home and found me blacked out in the car out front here at our house. And she couldn't get the car door open, and she thought I was dead in there. And finally, she found the car keys, came out and got me, and she didn't know what to do other than to reach out to friends that we had at the church, a friend that I worked with at the church. And that basically started the process of me having to tell the entire church that I worked for that I was struggling with addiction, with alcoholism. And that started the process of me leaving the church. Um, and that started the process of me losing what I thought my purpose was in life. And so that started the process of the progression going a lot faster of alcoholism.
So did it feel like you were leaving the church or did it feel like you were being pushed out?
So
Like
I
whose
still have.
idea was it? Basically, is what I'm getting at here.
It wasn't my idea. I'll
Mm,
put it that way, right? I'm trying to change how I tell this story because for years, like it was very apparent that I had a resentment towards the people that were kind of in charge. But I've kind of grown away from that and grown out
mhm,
of that resentment. I've forgiven them, and I've tried to accept my part in it and tried to see it from their side. Right? It
mhm,
was a new church start that I was at that point, so they were very vulnerable to things. So I understand. I wish that it would have gone differently. I wish because I felt like I was very close friends with the pastor, and I felt like a good friend of mine just abandoned me when I needed him most.
yeah.
Right. So it was hurtful. Um, but just thinking back on it now and the experiences that I've had, like, how well do you really know anybody? How close are you really to anybody as
Mhm,
far as friendship is concerned? Have grown a lot since then, and I've owned my side of that, and
mhm,
I forgive them for that. I
mhm,
hope that they forgive me for what the situation I put them in,
mhm,
right?
yeah.
But that started the process of, my drinking just went off the charts at
Yeah.
that point because I lost who I thought I was.
Mhm,
A part of me was gone. It was dead. And I'm like, well, now what do I have? Who am I? If I'm not a worship leader, music director, music guy, I'm just a
mhm,
drunk. So I might as well play into that. Right. So that leads me to the worst day of my life. And I'll tell you about the worst day of my life. Um, it was the day before Easter on 2016. And we were scheduled with my wife's parents to go to a butterfly garden in downtown Cincinnati that night. My wife had to work that day. At this point, we had my daughter, who was 1 years old, and my wife went to work. I was in charge of watching my daughter that day. And I'll tell you, I had built a pond on the side of my house earlier that year that I was really proud of. It's a little like 2 feet deep, 10-foot pond. And I decided that that day while my wife was at work, while I was watching my daughter, I was going to drink a bottle of vodka and just take the edge off before we go hang out with her parents that night. So fast forward to Easter Sunday, the next day. I wake up on my parents' couch, and obviously, I wake up not feeling great. And I look, and my parents are sitting on the couch across from me with a just incredibly worried look. And I don't even know what happened. That day, my parents have a party for Easter. The family's coming over. Olivia shows up an hour. Olivia's my wife. She shows up an hour before this party, and she explains to my parents what I did the day before. And what she didn't know at the time is she was actually explaining to me what I did the day before. And Olivia, the day before, came home and she found me, and I was in the pond with my 1 year old daughter in March. It's cold, cleaning the pond. My excuse was she's helping me clean the pond. I was
boy.
blackout drunk, blackout drunk. When she told me that, it it never gets easier to tell the story because my daughter is literally everything to me. I would never put her in a situation like that. And she told me that, and I knew that minute that that was it. I had to make the change, and my wife made it very apparent. She said, "You're not coming home until something changes." She also told me that, you know, we still ended up going downtown, I guess, and we met with her parents. I was blackout drunk, and I said terrible things to her, just awful things that just aren't true. And that's not who I am. I'm not a hateful person. Even when I was a blackout drunk, I'm not a hateful person. Um, so she told me all these things, and again, that was it. That was the day. So 2016, Easter Sunday. was kind of a resurrection day for me. It was a day where, it was the worst day of my life, but it was the best day of my life because it was the day that I turned around, where I said, enough is enough. I'm going to make the changes. And then I put the work in, right? That's the important part because I had promised changes so many times before,
Yeah.
but I never did anything about it. This time I did something about it.
So tell us a little bit about the feelings that day. Now, at first, was it a matter of compliance? Were you like, okay, I got to change so that I don't lose my family? Or was it actually deeper than that? And it was like, I want to be a better human being?
Yeah, I think it was both. The
Mhm.
feeling of wanting to be a better human being was every day of my life, though. But it was always a I always meant it when I said it, but it was a lie at the same time. And you probably understand that as somebody
Of
that has
course.
gone through, like, yeah,
Yep.
tomorrow's a new day, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then you wake up the same shit
That's
over and
that's
over.
that's the difference between deceitful and delusional.
Right.
Yeah, no,
So,
I said a lot of things that I thought were true in the moment that at least I wished
r-
were true.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
this was like, like I said, like I never had terrible consequences. There could have been an awful consequence for that. If
Yeah.
something would have happened to my daughter, I'll tell you, I wouldn't be here, right? And I don't mean I'd be in prison. Like
Mhm.
I couldn't live.
Yeah.
I couldn't live knowing that I did something to her. And just so everybody knows, she's happy, she's healthy, she's safe. My son is now, he's with us and he's 4 years old. He's safe. Um, I'm clean and sober for 7 years, and it's a beautiful thing.
Wonderful.
And it was a very dark time in my life, and I'm thankful that my wife really is my superhero. She put her foot down and she said, "This isn't happening. You're not coming home
Mhm.
until you make the change," and she meant it. And I didn't go home. I lived with my parents. I don't remember how long it was that I lived with my parents, but it was tough, and there were times where I called her and I said, "I'm ready to come home." And she's
Yeah.
like, "I'm not ready to have you home yet.
Good for her.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you."
That's
Um,
great. Yeah.
so without her, like a string of hope wouldn't be going on either.
Yeah.
Just so everybody knows, my wife is my superhero, and she's everything to me. My family's everything to me. And thank
Mhm.
God I had such a loving family around me because there's so many people that don't have that support system.
Yeah.
And they've made it in recovery. And I'm like, how did you do it? I wouldn't have been able to do this without my mom and dad being there, without my, mother and father-in-law. God bless them. They're amazing.
Mhm.
And without my wife and my kids.
Yeah.
Right.
I wanna I
So
I wanna call on Donna here a little bit, but I think she's pretty busy.
I can't hear anything.
Oh, she can't hear anything. Oh boy. The computer went
it's just,
down.
I'm
just tell her
totally
it's
bummed
amazing.
over here.
Yeah, it's an amazing conversation. It's truly amazing. She's over here. So So, tell us about your first year. Like, tell us about what it was like. So you had this experience with your family, with your wife. Where did you go from there? Like, how did you start your path to healing?
Yeah. So that the next day, I didn't do anything that night. I was just it was too much that day, Easter Sunday too. But that next day, I went to my I it wasn't my first meeting, Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, but it was one of the first few, and it was the first one that I went to, like, ready to make a change, like willing, like needing to make a change. And I did my 90 and 90. So, any of you wondering what that is, I did 90 meetings in 90 days. I actually
Mhm.
think I did probably more like 120. You
I
know what I
I
mean?
think I think I did like 170 some. Like I was all in. You know how that is, like all or nothing type mentality. So did you buy
And
in?
that
Like
was,
did
yeah. And that was a big deal for me too, to go to those meetings, to be a part of that fellowship. It was a big deal. Like my family 100% behind my back. You know, my parents and her parents watched my daughter so I could go and do this and take care of myself. They started to read. You know, they read the big book. They read different literature on, you know, stuff, and it helped them to realize like I need to be selfish for a short
Mm-hmm.
amount of time, even though I've been selfish for all of this time. They need to give me a little bit more of my selfishness to actually heal, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
was a very weird thing because I felt that. I'm like, man, I need to be like helping around the house and doing this. And it's like, no, you need to go to a meeting and you need to listen. You need to shut up and you need to listen.
How
And that's what
hang on.
I did.
How did they know that? Because a lot of people that don't necessarily have experience with alcoholism or someone or having a loved one that's suffering with alcoholism, how did they know that, like, "No, go, this is what you need?"
Yeah, because they really tried to learn like right from the beginning, and they knew that this was progressing before then. So my mom was reading books
Oh,
and
okay.
my wife was listening to stuff and reading stuff. So like this wasn't like it wasn't a shock that this happened. Like there were blackouts that were happening. It was getting worse. This was just like
Yeah.
the final straw, right? So
Mhm.
and like I had mentioned, I had gone to treatment. You know, so my wife and my mom came into treatment and learned some stuff, you know, from the counselors. But they were really engaged because they love me, right? And that's what I go back to. Like, it's such a blessing. I don't know how other people make it into recovery if they don't have that support group. So I'm very fortunate for them. I'm very fortunate that they put the work in to understand. And it wasn't a lot of just like blaming and like, you know,
Mhm.
why is your life, why does your life suck so much? You got to drink type thing. No, they learned, you know, that how the disease of addiction works because it is a disease. And, you know, that's a conversation for a different podcast on a different day.
Yeah, yeah, we don't wanna start any
But
fights as to what it is. So, but
a lot of
yeah.
it's crazy to talk about this stuff because a lot of my followers on A String of Hope probably don't even know this story. It's been
Mhm.
so long since I've told this story. I'm excited to tell you this stuff, but you have to understand, like I hate telling the bad side of the story,
Yeah,
right?
of
Because
course.
it is really, it makes me feel icky. Like I get emotional telling it, and it's just not who I am. Um, so stick around till the end of this podcast, and we'll talk more about A String of Hope and where it's at today,
Of
and
course.
how
And
this all happened.
and about the chair in your background. Stick around to the end to find out what the chair in the background is.
That is the chair. I think people know that's where I
No,
shoot all
no,
the videos.
no, you weren't supposed to say that till the end, man. Now they can all leave. They know about the chair. Tell us about your experience with the program. Now, I said, did you buy in? And you said yes, but what does that mean? Like, did you do the steps? Did you get a sponsor? Did you get into service? Like, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, I got into the steps. I got a sponsor. Sponsor walked me through the steps. I went to meetings for the first year of my
Hmm.
sobriety, and you and I talked before this a little bit. I started to get antsy, right? I'm a very busy person. I like to stay busy. I like to do stuff. I like to
Hmm.
build things. So again, I started to get antsy in these rooms. Like, okay, I understand what's going on here, but like now I want to do something with my life. What am I gonna do? So I got a chainsaw for my birthday, and I started clearing back behind my house, and I started cutting down trees, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna build a tiny house. I'm gonna build a playhouse for my daughter. That's what I'm gonna do with my time.
Hmm.
And this playhouse turned into a monstrosity. I built this massive tiny house down this hill
Half
in my
measures avail us
backyard.
nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I was working through some shit, man. Like I was really working through some stuff. And the first thing I did was I carried 80-pound bags of concrete down to put the footers down for this thing. Like it has footers. It's a real building down there. And it about killed me. The first like week of me starting to do this about killed me, but I'm like, you know what? I am not gonna give up on this. I'm gonna do this. And that story kind of goes segues into a whole lot of other stuff. Like, where my dad has helped me with everything in my life. He's been there for everything. And for this, I asked for his help one time, and he said, "You know what, Ben, I'm not going to help you with that because I think you're going to go down there and you're going to drink." And that it broke me. It broke my heart when he said that to me. And in my mind, I'm like, no way in hell am I going to give up on this now. I'm going to prove my dad wrong and I'm going to do this. And I'm so glad that he decided not to help me. Eventually he came around and helped me a few times, but I'm so glad that he didn't because I learned what I was capable of, right?
Mm.
And when I look at that tiny house that I built down there, I'm reminded of what I'm capable of
Do you think
because it
that was his
really was
intention?
just no, he really thought I was going to drink, and
Oh.
once he realized like this is more about like you're trying to stay sober and do this. That's when he came over and helped a few times at the end, but he
Mm.
was scared. He was scared that I was building this little shack behind my house that I
To
could
go
go
drink.
sneak away to. Yeah, but it wasn't that. It
So he's
wasn't
healing.
that. And what's that?
So he's healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And it was healing to build that building. So I did that. And then, that was like the first year of my recovery. Then, about 3 years into 2.5 years into my healing, a family friend reached out to me and said, I want to teach you how to build guitars. He knew I was a musician and he knew that my dad was a woodworker. And he's like, you'd probably be really good at it. And this guy's in his 70s. It's my mom's best friend's husband. So old guy has a ton of life experience. I go over to his house and he starts teaching me how to build guitars, how to bend the wood, how to shape the wood and everything. And while he's doing this, he's telling me all these amazing life stories. And I'm listening to him and I'm thinking, how cool would it be if I started a documentary series where I share my story of recovery and tie in guitar building into that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where A String of Hope was born, right in that moment. And I remember thinking to myself for months before I did anything, like, I can't do this. I don't have any video equipment. I don't have any like skills to be able to do this. Why would I even try to do this? And the thought kept coming back in my head. If you can help one person, you have to do this. If you can help one person, you have to do this. And I kept getting that thought over and over again. And finally, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to do it. And I realized soon that the idea was much bigger than myself. So I started reaching out to friends in recovery, and I started shooting this documentary series with my cell phone. I ended up shooting about 24 episodes, and that was really the beginning of A String of Hope. It was those videos. You can go back and find them on Facebook. You'll have to go back all the way to the beginning. Started the page in 2019. So scroll all the way to the back and you'll see some amazing stories of some incredible people that had some really low bottoms, right? And I would tell their story and would weave in guitar building. And again, that's where the name comes from. A lot of people are wondering like what's the name about?
Yeah.
And it's guitar building. We're all connected by a string of hope, right?
Beautiful, man.
And so yeah, 2019, it took me a year to get 10,000 followers on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it was slow. It was slow at the beginning. And a lot of people like think 10,000 followers, that's a lot. But it's like
Yeah.
if you look at the grand scheme of things of where we're at today,
Yeah.
and if the second year, it took me a year to get to 100,000 followers.
Yeah.
And then the third and the fourth year, now we're coming up on we're past 900,000, and plus we
Yeah.
got 900,000 on TikTok. It's 1.8 million people following these pages,
Yeah.
and it's just snowballed, and it's
Mm-hmm.
snowballed, and it's morphed into something different. I really like to share hope with people on a more of a generic sense of it because addiction's one thing, but we have depression that we're dealing with. all kinds of trauma that people are dealing with. And I just want to be a guiding light and a source for people that when they open up their Facebook feed or when they open up their TikTok or their YouTube, if they scroll across my page, they're going to scroll to the next one better off than they did before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Little changes, small changes consistently add up to just incredibly massive, beautiful, wonderful things. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to stay consistent with spreading hope, teaching people little tricks that they could do to make their day a little bit better, to maybe be a little bit more successful with whatever they're trying to do, whatever they're trying to attain in life. And that's really it. I mean, that's where we're at today, you know.
So what pulled you away from the rooms? Like you said that in your first year you went to meetings. Tell us about the thought process that sort of like took you away from that. Like, were you nervous the first time you decided not to go to a meeting? Because I know a lot of people in those rooms, meeting makers make it, or if you don't, you don't go to a meeting, you're going to go back out. Like, how was it facing that thought process when you decided to step away from the rooms?
I decided to step away when the anxiety got too much, right? Because like I said, I'm a busy person. I need to do stuff. Like I needed to build guitars and learn with my hands. And
Hmm.
yes, to answer your question, I was very nervous to tell my wife or tell my parents like, hey, I'm not going to go to a meeting today because I'd like to spend a couple more hours working on this guitar or working on this documentary series. But I had built this network out of that to where I was continually with people that were in recovery and we were doing recovery things, right? So I may not have been walking into the Tri County Center up the street, but I was walking into a interview, much like you're interviewing me today, talking about it, substance abuse.
Hmm.
I was walking into an interview talking with other people in recovery. So I was still kind of, and still today, like again, I'm with you right now. I hang
Hmm.
out with my buddy Andrew Hager all the time, and we talk about recovery, and it's just my life now.
I
I've
reached out to
I've
him.
built. Did he respond to you?
He did. Yeah. Yeah.
He's been texting me this whole time. I keep getting the notifications. If you're in here, Andrew, I am busy.
Yeah. Knock it off. Jump in the chat. You may. Oh, and by the way, we got the wheel back up working again, and Donna can now hear us.
Yippers.
Awesome. Hey, Donna.
Yeah. Yeah. So like,
Glad to be back.
yeah.
Yeah,
So all of this
love it.
time, like when you were on full screen, like I was like, Donna, do this, and we got the mod computer back up and running. So anyway, sorry to go down that rabbit hole. So
No, I want to mention Andrew Hager real quick while we're talking about him. He has been a huge supporter of mine, and he's a huge reason why the page grew so quickly too. Is we created a a partnership, and I help him do videos, and we cross share stuff on each other's pages. When I met him, he had 200,000 something people following his page, and that was huge to be able to connect with him and to be able to bounce ideas off somebody that was doing it. Somebody that was really reaching a lot of people with a message of hope. So I've learned so much from that guy.
yeah,
And he's truly one of my best friends. And I talk with him just about every day.
yeah.
And yeah, I'll get you connected with him because he would be a great person to have on here too.
Yeah, he asked me for my number, and then like it's been such a busy weekend with my recovery celebration and just preparing for all of this. So don't worry, Andrew, if you're watching, I'll definitely get back to you. So tell us a little bit more about what again, when we talked before, we said we were going to talk a little bit about what your stance is on religion now that you've had the experiences that you have with the church community that seemingly pushed you away.
Yeah, so
Religion as it
I
relates
still
to you, not like in a general, we're not going to start knocking Christianity or anything, but
let me tell you this, and I'll tell everybody that listens to me and everybody that follows a string of hope. I believe wholeheartedly that God is real.
Mhm.
I believe that there is a bigger purpose out there. There is a divine purpose out there. I I have an issue with religion, with organized religion. You know, I think there's a lot of problems out there with organized religion. A lot of it stems from that, but you know, I have a very strong connection to my higher power, a God of my understanding, and I think that's really important for anybody dealing with anything to have something that's absolute in their life, like like God. You know, for some people it might be family, or it might be this or that, brotherhood, whatever it is. I think that's very important to have in your life, to have that absolute. And I still do have that. But yeah, as far as, you know, religion is concerned, I wouldn't say I have this feeling too because of the bad taste put in my mouth from my experience. Um, I think it's just what I've learned over the years, you know, even past that. Obviously that didn't help. And I've had other experiences with organized religion, with pastors not being who they said they were, that really broke my heart too. Um, and it all comes down to not putting faith in people, right? I can continue to have faith in God and not have to go sit my butt in a church seat somewhere and give $10 into the plate. Um, so I hope that makes sense. I hope people hear me correctly when I say that. You know,
Mhm.
it's God is very important in my life and very important in my recovery, and my relationship with that God it has to remain on the forefront of
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
I still pray. You know, my prayers are much different today
Mhm.
than maybe they used to be.
Mhm.
But it's still like, hey, I don't have it all figured out. I'm hoping you do. You know, if you do, like, give me a
Maybe we can figure this out together. So,
right.
but like for some context of where I want to go next, like with my relationship with God, so to speak, and I don't even know what to call this presence, this source energy, this whatever it is that's out there that presents me with these opportunities. It's up to me to make these opportunities. I don't. I'm not sure that I can resonate with the fact that all praise be to God, right? I believe more that it is a partnership, that where I mentioned I am presented with opportunities to live a better way, or I can choose whichever way I want. Like, tell us a little bit more about what that relationship looks like for you.
I'm still trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? All
Yeah.
I can do is wake up every day and try to be the best person I can be, and try to have discernment, and try to understand that when I am getting some sort of message, whether it be from God or the universe or whatever it is,
Mhm.
that I'm open to understanding, even if I don't like what the message is. I'm open to, you know, moving forward, and going through doors that are opening, or giving up on doors that are closing.
Mhm.
Hopefully that's making sense a little
We're
bit. Kind
we're
of
getting a
kind of
little,
crypt.
yeah, esoteric, and the triangles
Right.
with the eyeballs are gonna start coming out pretty soon.
Here's what it comes down to, man. Like,
Yeah.
I just want to keep doing the next right. I want to wake up
Yeah.
and do the next right thing. I want to wake up and be a good person to the people that I meet, the
Mhm.
people that follow me. I want to make sure that I'm a good example
Mhm.
for them, because there's a lot of responsibility that comes with this many people that look up to you in a way.
Yeah.
You know, it's again, a lot of responsibility, and I want to make sure that you know, I'm being the best that I can be for those people, for my family, for the ones that I love. Waking
Mhm.
up every day being a better person than I was yesterday, right? Even if it's just by you know, a fraction of a percent.
Mhm.
What can I do today that's going to, it's going to mean that I am a better person today than I was yesterday? every day.
And that's
And a lot of times that means stepping back, listening to what my higher power is really trying to tell me to do in my life.
Yeah. So has there ever been any times where you have been maybe going through a dark time, maybe struggling with something, and the community on A String of Hope has brought you out of it?
Just about every day, yeah.
Because like you mentioned, like
Listen,
you've seen some comments and things like that that really like remind you of why you're doing it.
yeah, I mean, there's people that comment like, "I watched your video and I decided not to take my life tonight." Like
Mhm,
that'll wake you up. That'll sit you up in your chair real quick when you read something like that. I don't take that stuff lightly. I don't think these people are just messing around either. Like
mhm,
that's serious stuff. People are hurting. People are going through incredibly difficult times, losing people that they love, whether it be to addiction or to anything. And I struggle with depression on a daily basis, every day. Every day it's a fight. Um, and what a lot of people don't understand is these messages that I share in my 15-second videos, 95% of them are meant for me. Like, hey, there's Kathy Fisher. That's Nana Cat. Hey, Mom, love you. Thank you for being here.
Right on, mom. Good to see you.
So what people may not know is that these messages are for myself too. So I am
Mhm,
being selfish in a way, and I'm just reminding myself, like, hey, think about life this way. Maybe don't think about life too much this way. Blah blah blah.
mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a struggle every day. And when I see comments from people all around the world that are, you know, just sharing back the positivity that I'm putting out, it's just a cycle of this. It's just a positive wheel that just keeps going around as long as we all keep spinning it. But
Mhm,
I need to see. I shouldn't say that. Like if I didn't get a single comment or if I didn't have a single follower, I would still be doing what I'm doing today because I'm not doing this because I want to necessarily. I'm doing it because I have to, right?
mhm.
And when I say have to, I mean because it's part of what's in here, right? It's part of what I just got to get out.
Yeah,
So, every day I post a video, maybe two videos, and it's just me getting out something that I just needed to get out
yeah. And
for the most part.
that's been a big part of my own recovery as well. Like I've been on Facebook since in fact, I jumped on Facebook on my way to detox actually. And every year, on that day, I look back at that memory and I look at that post that I threw up saying, like I'm on my way to fight my demons. Y'all will see you on the other side, and that was 6 years ago today, actually. So,
It's amazing, man.
it is, and I've
You're,
maintained
you're
that. If you look back at my Facebook page, like there are so many times when I'm going through a hard time that I will take that and I will turn that into something meaningful and I'll put it on social media, you know? And when
yeah,
I'm done and I'll spend a lot, I'm sure you can relate. I'll spend a long time on a post, like just to like make sure that it's saying what I want it to say the way I want it to say it. And I've had some really positive results. So like I I I I love watching your page, ever since I stumbled across it. Um, it inspires me to improve my content to, like, so thank you for that. Thank you for helping me become a better content creator and step into my own uh journey further. Oh, it's amazing.
you're doing amazing, man. You
Yeah.
just got to keep it up, and I know it's really easy to get lost in the numbers, right? Of like how many followers you have. But again, it always comes back to if you can help one person, we have to do it. If
Yeah.
we can help one person, we have to do it, right? Because what is one life worth? It's worth so much. I mean, you can't even put a price on it,
Yeah.
right? I could have very well, and you too, and Donna, I don't know your story, but I'm assuming that you're in recovery as well. You know, our story could have been way different. We all three of us, could not be here right
Mhm.
now. And so many of us that struggle with addiction didn't make it.
Yeah.
And that makes me very emotional thinking about it, because, as dark as life got, and when there were times where I didn't want it to go on. Like, I wanted it to end. Life is really good now. My family is beautiful. I'm blessed abundantly. I still wake up every day and have to fight through depression and fight through the hard shit,
Yeah.
but it's good. And I know other people can have it. And if you have breath in your lungs, there's hope. I don't care how far gone you are, how far gone you think you are.
Mm-hmm.
There's hope. You can come back. You can make a comeback, and the comeback's always better than the setback.
Oh yeah.
So,
all right, man. Well, I think we'll cap it off there. Is there anything else that you would like to leave us with tonight before we let you go?
big thing, I just want people to know they can make changes in their life, and they're capable of doing that. And I want to thank you guys profusely for letting me share my story tonight with you. You guys are doing amazing work, and I really hope that we can, continue. Maybe not a podcast, but we talked before this. Like, there's got to be ways we can work together to
Yeah, man.
reach more people and help more people, and I want to do that with you guys. So again, congratulations on 6 years. You guys are a blessing to me, big time.
And likewise, my friend. Okay, we will let you go. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing your experience and your strength and your hope with us. Thank you for all that you're doing out there in social media land. And I'm sure that we will enjoy watching you grow and grow. And who knows where things will go. But for now, take care, my friend. We'll see you again next time.
Peace. Love you guys. See ya.
All right, if you're getting something out of what we're doing here tonight, you can find all our audios on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts, or live and interactive right here on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch TV. Thanks for watching. Take care, my friends.
Say, this is Hard Knocks Talks.